All right, back in the forums, and Random Nurses wants to know the best way to nest sub table of contents list under parent table of contents list in CMS collections. And what Random Nurses is getting at here is nested collections, which you can definitely do in Webflow. I will just give a brief example based on what was written here, trying to interpret what this user wants, and then I'll discuss some of the limitations. But I'll just do a really basic example of how to set up a nested collection list in Webflow. So with that said, let's go. This is my Webflow dashboard. Make a new site, start a blank project, nested collection list example. Okay, so blank page. First thing I'm going to do is just start setting up the CMS, and I'll have a section or a collection named categories. And this is just going to have a name and a slug is all that it needs. So let's create that collection. And then I'll make another one called subcategories. And this will have a name and a slug. I'm going to add some stuff just to make it a little bit unique. Image, and we'll add an email. None of this actually matters. This would be like whatever data you had with the subcategory. Probably you'd have I don't know, image, multi-image. This would be like a blog article of some sort or a product. So you would have also maybe like some rich text, something like that. But for this example, we'll just keep it really simple. Going to create the collection. Come on. Cancel. Just make that again. Subcategories. Add field. Image. Image. Save field. Add field. Email. Email. Save field. Create collection. Great. So I have empty categories and subcategories. And let's say for categories, I want to add, I don't know, we want 10 categories. So this is just the original one with the name and the slug. And then subcategories, I'm going to create 10 as well. Okay. And now the main thing we need to do is in categories, we're going to set up a multi-reference field. So I'll go back into categories. I'm going to click the gear icon here. And I'm going to add a field, multi-reference. And we'll say subcategories. Oops. And it's going to grab from the subcategories. Save that field. Save collection. Okay, and now I'll go into one. Let's go into just, I don't know, it's hard to read these Latin names, but we'll go into the shortest one because it'll be easy to find. So now this is populating with the subcategories from the subcategories CMS. So ID or id and in-a, let's just check if we go to subcategories. Yep, we got id and in-a. So I'll go back to categories, back to et, and I'm going to add those two. And let's add Modi as well. Save. Okay, so now we have one category that does have subcategories associated with it. And I'll go back into designer view here, and I'm going to start adding some collection lists. First, I'm just going to throw a container in here just so we can make things centered and take up some good amount of space. All right, now I'm going to drag a collection list inside of that container. We need to connect it to a collection. I'm going to connect it to categories. And now you'll see it's starting to populate with those 10 categories that we had. And now I want each item, each collection item is going to have a link. And that's going to add a link in all of them. And we're going to use this purple document icon here. And we want it to go to the current category template page. And let's add some text in there just so we can see what we're doing. And we're going to get text from categories. We're going to get the name. And now that has our 10 categories here. And remember, we added some subcategories to et, so I'll show you how that works later too. And this I'm going to call big link. You'll see why later. We'll make this 2 rem and a line height of, I don't know, 1.2 unitless. Make it 1.5. Okay, so now if I go into preview mode and I click, it'll go to the categories template page. I'm going to come out of preview mode. And if I go back to pages, so I'm in this categories template page here. And what I can do is, since I have subcategories with each one, I can drag in another collection list. And I'm going to put this inside of a container as well. So we'll call this container and double click to add collection. Now we got to set the source to category fields. We want subcategories. And remember, we're in item et, so it has those 3 subcategories, id, ina, and modi. And I can do basically the same thing that I did on the home page. Add a link. We're going to set this document. We want it to go to the current subcategory. And we're going to then add just some text inside that link block. We'll get the text from the subcategory name. Remember, we got id, ina, and modi. Okay. And I think that's all I want to do for this page. Now, we only added subcategories to one category. So if I go to any of these other ones, then we're not going to get anything. We're going to get the no items found state. So let's go back just for this example. And now if we click one of these, now we want to show stuff that's associated with that subcategory. So let's say I click Modi, and then I'm out. It's an empty page, but now I'm in the subcategories template page. So if I go to the pages viewer over here, we see I'm in subcategories template. And this is where I'll add whatever it is I want to add. So let's chuck a container in here, and we'll throw an image inside of that. And now we can get those images that were populated into our subcategories. And I'm going to just make this 100% width and give it a max height of 10 rem. And we'll make that cover. And then I'll get the email address just to prove that we're getting some unique data in here associated with that sub collection. Email. Great. And now if I go through each of these different ones, it's just the data associated with that sub collection. So I believe this actually solves the use case you're looking for random nurses. So if I go back home, I have these. These are the main categories, the 10 categories. If I click one of these, well, we didn't set up any subcategories for these, but say I wanted to. So sed quo quasi laborisam. Let's go back to out of preview mode, back to CMS. And what was it? Sed quo something or other. And we'll add some subcategories here. And I'm going to add a bunch because I want to show you something. We'll add 9 there. Save that. So now we're in the categories template, and we're in that sed quo quasi one. And you can see we have our links here. And if I click one of these, it's going to take us to that same sub collection page. And now I'm in the subcategories template page. So I can go back to categories template, and depending on, again, none for this one, but we added those 3. And then what was the other one? Sed quo, whatever, we added 9. So they're all there. Now, something to know, home, if you want to nest collection list, you're limited to 5 items. I'll show you here. So let's say, like, okay, this is our table of contents. We have big link here. Maybe you make this an H1 and then you have some H2s below it, or something you want to do. But so let's go back into the collection list. It won't let me list a link. That's because I need to actually add a collection list. So within each big link, or within each collection item, I want to access the subcategories. So source will be just adding a nested collection list here, and I'm adding subcategories. And I'm going to move that below big link because I want them to be smaller and like a subheading. And now I'll throw a link block into collection item. It's going to go to choose collection. It's going to go to that current subcategory. And let's throw some text in there so that we know what subcategory we're going to. Okay, and you see sed quo quasi labori osam has the subcollections here, or the subcategories, and et has its three subcategories as well. And if I hit preview mode and I click one of these, we're going to go straight to the subcollection. Now, a limitation with Webflow is that it will only show 5 in a nested collection. It'll only show 5 subcategories. This is a known, let's see. This is the Webflow nested collection lists kind of instructions, shows you basically how to do what I just did. So I recommend going through this. That'll probably deepen your understanding of what we're doing here. And then you have some dynamic content limitations with Webflow. And the big one, so you can have 20. We're not really limited here with that. We're not limited with that. One nested collection list per page. So we did our one nested collection. If we wanted to throw another nested collection list, we couldn't do that. And then 5 items per nested collection list. So that's why we're seeing this one here that has 9 subcategories associated with it. We're only getting 5. If you want to get around that, then I'd recommend checking out Finsweet Nested Collection List. It's a little bit more setup, but it's definitely possible, and I'm happy to help with that if you need this use case. You'll copy this custom code into your project, and then you'll just follow the steps here. And that's really it. Hope that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And yeah, that's it.